I knew that's what I was supposed to do. And so I had a really tough time sleeping. My heart was racing. I was just really excited to start. I couldn't wait until the next morning to wake up and just to get started. And so the next morning, I woke up and I didn't know what to do or where to start, but I figured it out. And I Googled everything that I didn't know, and I made a lot of mistakes. But 8 years later, I feel like it's been an incredible journey. I am so grateful for everything that's happened. And at this point, I guess I know I guess what I would love your feedback and help with is to learn how to grow my agency in a better way. I do cover all of northern New Mexico, but I would like to be the best, not just in the state of New Mexico, but I'd like to be one of the best nationwide. There's agencies, in Texas and Denver who've been around for 30 years, and I know that anytime I do get people from out of state, that does bring business to New Mexico. And so, yeah, I guess I would just like your feedback on what you would suggest I could do to continue to grow my business. And another thing in response to growing my business is how I can possibly make this more affordable to the average person. A household staffing agency, providing nannies, housekeepers, estate managers is typically for sort of the, a wealthy clientele. And so, I don't know, it'd be great to be able to offer these services to anyone who needs it. So, that's it.
Yay! Do we have any questions?
So my first question is, what is the thing that has kept you from growing local? Is it recruiting? Is it advertising? Is it duplicating yourself? What's that thing that keeps you?
Sure. That's a great question. Having not had any kind of business background, I didn't have the money to spend on advertising, and so in 8 years, I never really spent any money. Up until recently, I recently went with a business for an SEO plan. So I'm doing that now. Other than that, it's really just getting the word out. That's been a challenge. I know that certain clients that have found me within a few years were like, oh, I wish you were here back then, and I was, but they didn't know I was there. So it's just a matter of being found. I think like right now, I am drawing in clients from other states that find my website somehow, which is kind of I don't know how that happens, but yeah, I still feel like there's still a lot of New Mexico that I feel could use our services that don't really know that we're here. So but maybe a specific marketing strategy, right? Yes?
Who are your typical clients? Could you describe them in a fair amount of detail?
Sure. My clients are typically families. Like I said, one of the most popular placements would be nannies. So they're families who they don't want to put their kids in daycare yet. Maybe they're newborns, they're babies. They want someone to care for them in their home. Some of my clientele recently have been older. I actually have a 94-year-old client who is looking for a live-in housekeeper who will eventually be her caregiver. And so my client ranges from, families to people who are looking for caregivers for their parents or grandparents or for themselves. Typically, because I do work mostly in the private sector, I don't accept insurance, so that does limit people's ability to use my services. So it is people who have the money to pay someone fairly decent. The average nanny salary is about $15 an hour, and caregivers usually make $20 an hour or up. So it's hard to reach everyone without accepting insurance.
Now, you said when you first started there was nobody like that. Now, what does the competition scene look like for your company, several years later?
Sure. So that's a great question. I did have competition within, I think, the first 3 years of starting my business, and that was honestly the hardest thing I think I've been through starting my agency, because that my competition copied everything that I did verbatim, to where I talked to a friend who was an attorney, and we just sent him a little letter just asking to change the wording. They did that, but they copied everything, and so it was a challenge. And so what I just decided to do at that point, which sounds strange to some of you, but I'm a part of a national association called APNA. It's the Association of Premier Nanny Agencies, and I asked them for advice on what to do. Their advice to me was to raise my prices, which I had a hard time doing, but I did that because I know the value of my services, and at that point I had been doing it for, I think, about 14 years now as a recruiter. So I did that, and my agency is the only agency in the state that's ever been accepted into APNA. It's a little bit different than other associations because we have to be, they have to call our clients, check our forms, how we run our business, and we have to be in business a certain amount of years. And so being accepted into that was a big deal for me, but people don't necessarily know the difference with some other agency. And I'm not saying that, I wish the best for anyone who uses any nanny service. I think it's always the way to go rather than an online agency if you can afford it. But it has been a challenge to set myself apart. And besides, of course, raising my prices, I just continue to do what I love doing. And I genuinely love what I do. And so that's really getting to know my clients, building that kind of trust and relationship with them, getting to know the applicants that come into the agency. And I kind of have, I don't know if you all are familiar with the Southwest Airlines motto, which they hire for attitude and they train for skills. And that's really how I run my business. If someone comes in with a perfect, impressive resume, working for the Obamas, like whoever it is, if they don't have that thing that's just there that I wouldn't hire them for myself or for my family or kids, I wouldn't send them to my clients. So I'm very, very picky in who I accept into the agency and who I send out. And I do pay attention to my clients' needs and preferences. And that's why I do say I'm a matchmaker. It's really matchmaking because it's really understanding who my clients are, what they want, and how I can best serve them.
Are you a one-person shop, or do you have to work?
I do work with other APNA agencies. So if someone called me from another state where I didn't have any great candidates, I would work with another APNA agency in that state.
So right now you're one person?
Right here, yes, right now. And I do hire out when I need to, but mostly I try not to take on more than 5 clients at a time so that I can have that, so that I can give each person that specialized attention.
So how can you, when you're looking at expanding, you're working with 5, how are you going to expand if you're always limited to 5? And if you're going to other states,
Sure.
who's going to represent you?
Um,
How's that going to work?
Well, I'm referring to long-term placements. Because my database has grown so much over the last 8 years. For instance, just for nannies, I have over 300 nannies active in my database. I make placements pretty quickly. So if I have 5 clients within a month, usually within that month they're filled. To expanding, and it's a great question. One of the services that we do offer is a babysitter service, and so I never really wanted to do this, but there was such a need, especially, and I've been in Albuquerque now for a year and a half, but in Santa Fe especially, people go there, and Albuquerque for vacations, for the balloon fiesta, and they need a hotel sitter. And so I do provide hotel sitters for out-of-state guests. I also provide babysitter memberships for locals in New Mexico where they can get a membership. It's less expensive and they can use it more often. I would like to expand my services, my long-term placements outside of New Mexico, but not the babysitting, not the short-term placements. That that's another area of growth that I'm looking at in New Mexico, to provide emergency backup care for children and possibly work with some businesses and offer that as a benefit package. I was asked to partner with Care.com in order to do that for their clients, and I haven't gone down that path yet for a few reasons. It's very expensive because the nannies would then become my employees, and I would have to. It's a long process, and so I'm not sure that I'm going to go down that path just yet. But I have created. I did hire someone to create a database for me to have because right now I'm having to call all the nannies, which takes some time. If someone just needs a babysitter, I've hired someone to create a system that generates a text to the available nannies in the area that's requested. That just needs to be completed, but I'd like to be able to expand that in the state. Yes.
So you're talking about, this kind of emergency service for babysitting. Talking about even like a hotel nanny,
Right.
For people coming in for emergency yesterday. Now, from the parent's point of view, how do they know that the person that they're leaving their children with? How do you give that trust that you've curated enough of the people that are coming through your agency that they can trust the people that are leaving their kids with?
That's a great question. A lot of my placements are from referrals for someone who's already used the agency. For anyone coming outside of the state, I would say it's really scary for them, and I understand that. I try to really go out of my way to have a good conversation with them and let them know that not only are the babysitters screened, we do the background checks, criminal background checks, DMV checks, all kinds of things. Besides that, we use the same people over and over. And so I have references. I have client references if they want to call somebody, if they're really nervous. I also suggest that they meet with the babysitter an hour or two before they would leave, so that they have that so they can know that their children are in good hands. A lot of the babysitters, I do training with them. I let them know that it's always good to send the parents a text message, a little photo of the kids playing or laughing or doing something like that, letting them know how it's going throughout the time that they're gone. And I let them know that they're not, if they don't feel comfortable, they can call us, and they don't have to leave their children with our sitters. But because I am so picky with our sitters, I've never had anyone who didn't feel comfortable enough leaving. In fact, I've had amazing feedback. Some of them have offered these sitters nanny jobs from that experience. So it's been, I don't know how I could do that myself personally, but some of these people from other states have worked with other agencies, so it's not completely new to them. I also think it helps that being a part of a national association, such as the Association of Premier Nanny Agencies, gives a little bit, it gives a little more accountability to my agency. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but. Yes.
So I'm hearing a wide range of things, but I'm having trouble understanding how the economic flows to you.
Sure. So it's free for anyone who would apply through my agency for any kind of job placement. It's always free for them. They don't pay for anything. They don't pay for their background check. My clients, the only fee that I receive is from my clients. So if I'm making a caregiver placement, what I would typically do is I would send maybe 3 to 5 candidates to whoever was looking to hire a caregiver. Out of those candidates, my client would choose who they would want to hire, or start a trial period with, I should say. I always allow a 5-day trial period for long-term placements. They would then get to work for my client for about a week to see if it's a good long-term match. After that week, then the client would pay the agency a one-time placement fee. And for instance, for a full-time long-term placement, that would be 12% of what the caretaker's annual gross salary would be. So unlike a lot of local caregiver agencies where you're having different people come in and out every week, the caregivers are making minimum wage because the agency is making $25, $40 an hour. Our caregivers last long term. There's not a high turnover rate because they're working for the same family. They become kind of like a part of the family, and at that point they're being paid directly by my client, and they're being paid a lot better than working through a caregiving agency.
My wife and I paid an agency here in Albuquerque $19 and change per hour for a person to come to our house and be there for my ailing mother-in-law. So when I heard you say that you were advised to raise your prices, I thought, oh, are you pricing yourself out of the market? Then I think I just heard you say $25 to $40 an hour. That's more than double what we paid for just a person to be in the house. It sounds like the service that you provide to some of your clients is just that.
Sure, and it ranges. It ranges from 15 to 40 an hour. And usually the 40 an hours are for couples, and it's not that they're just doing caregiving. They're doing they're doing landscaping, they're doing cooking, they're doing cleaning, they're doing all kinds of things. So I have placements anywhere from $20,000 a year to over $100,000 a year. It would just depend on each client's budget, each requirement, what they're looking for. On average, the 19 is pretty typical for a caregiver. And again, if my clients can offer housing, sometimes they can offer a smaller salary because they're offering room and board. Yeah.
Hello, one last question. Have you considered being able to offer some kind of a payroll service where these people become your employees and you lift that burden from your clients and have that recurring revenue and manage all the taxes and insurance and everything for the family? And on the flip side of that, would some of your clients not appreciate that service because they would rather have you under the table?
And that's a great question. I deal with all kinds of clients. Some that do want to pay only under the table. I do my best to let them know that that's not a good thing. It's not good for them. It's not good for anybody. But I see what you're saying. So really, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. In order for me to do that, I would be a different agency. I can't legally give any tax advice, but I do have partners. I have household tax and payroll partners that I work with that I do refer my clients to. And a lot of them do want to use that service because it is a little complicated. What a lot of people don't know is anyone who works in your home is considered a household employee. They're not considered an independent contractor. You can get in big trouble with the IRS and pay a lot of penalty fees and back taxes and all kinds of things. So I do refer them to my tax and payroll partners. What a lot of people also don't realize is anyone who has a new child, there's 3 really big tax breaks that you can get going through a nanny agency. You get a tax break on our agency's placement fee, on the nanny's taxes, and another one for having a newborn within 30 days. There's all kinds of great breaks that you can get that a lot of CPAs aren't familiar with, and so we will give them some advice. I will tell them a few things that they should be aware of. Other than that, I have to be careful because I don't have my license. I have to refer them to the tax and payroll specialist. But we do have information that we provide to them just to prevent them from getting into a sticky situation tax-wise.
So the last question we always ask is, you've probably heard this though. How can we as a community help you continue to grow your business?
Oh, that's a great question. Talk to me afterwards, and I would love to hear all your advice. I mean, I would just say that if there's if there's something that you can think of, I don't know I don't know how to answer that. I would just say to continue to always help, of course, the local small business community, and to spread the word. And I don't ever like to ask for referrals unless you know my business is good. So I have clients, lots of numbers I can provide if you guys are interested. But yeah, I would just like your feedback, and anything that you would want to come and share with me after I'm done would be great. I'd appreciate it.
Well, thanks very much. Round of applause.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. We've got a couple sort of quick guest announcements that we'll do. I'm not sure if we can get somebody from Sabio talk a little bit about your upcoming event. It's Entrepreneurial Wednesday, which I think when we started, we're kind of making that up. But it starts with coffee here at Fat Pipe in the morning. You've got entrepreneurial office hours in the afternoon over at ABQID. But there's actually a couple more things that are coming online right now. Today, there's 11 to 1 o'clock, and I want to thank Bruce for his help and a little bit of searching for things. This is your first event, and you're doing so well. I love it. Thank you. So over at West, hiring your first employee, that's happening from 11 to 1. Startup School is a partnership of Innovation Academy, I want to say, with Fat Pipe here. Great content. Today we're hearing from Creative Startups. That's from 3 to 5 p.m. over here. If you've got questions, you want to talk to service professionals and others, experienced entrepreneurs, there's also 3 to 5 p.m. over at ABQID is that entrepreneurial office hours. A couple more things to mention, if I can remember them all. Tomorrow, downtown, LinkedIn is doing a bus tour. If LinkedIn is important to you, or if LinkedIn is something you don't quite understand, but you think it might be important to you because it's been important to others, they will help. Apparently, they're doing headshots. They're doing a lot of different things to help you spruce up your bio or your profile there. So I would suggest you come on down to, assuming it's not raining and all that good stuff, Civic Plaza tomorrow. I think that starts around 10 a.m. in the morning. On Friday, another ton of events that's happening downtown with basically, you may have heard that the city and Civic Plaza won a $2 million award, I want to say, from Southwest Airlines as part of their Heart of the City placemaking project. Some of the people from Southwest Airlines and Project for Public Spaces will be visiting this Friday. So there's going to be a mayor's announcement and some other cool things that are happening in the morning over at Civic Plaza. We're setting up a couple folks between the city and the community. We're setting up a couple of opportunities to talk with folks about placemaking. But in the afternoon, there's contests. Apparently, if you were wearing some kind of a Wizard of Oz costume, you've got a very good chance of winning a Southwest Airlines ticket. You heard from me here first, maybe, or second. And then there's Wizard of Oz later that night. One of the other topics that comes up from time to time is, where's our South by Southwest? What kinds of things can we build here in New Mexico or in Albuquerque that's going to shine a global spotlight on what we're doing here? We already have some great events, and one of them is this weekend, so I'd encourage you all to check out Albuquerque. World music is, really kind of any music from any neighborhood around the country, whether it's blues, salsa, mariachi, who knows what. They've included them all over at Albuquerque. It's got a national following. It's got a great following here in Albuquerque, but we'd love to see more entrepreneurs and folks from the tech community showing up for that as well, and that's Friday and Saturday down at the National Hispanic Cultural Center. Sabio Systems has been a great sponsor for us with coffee, and they've got an upcoming event. So we asked David to talk a little bit about it.
Thank you. Hi, my name is David Miles. I am a technical recruiter with Sabio Systems. We are a staffing firm that specializes in information technology professions. And on September 29th at 6, we are holding a exclusive networking event that I would like to invite all of you to. It's called Tech Night Out. And it was at the Hispano Chambers of Commerce. And we will have presentations from a certified PMP, along with some information on Scrum methodology and Agile methodology. And I would like all of you to come. If you have any questions, you can talk to me afterwards, or you can email david@sabiosystems.com. And to RSVP, email Candy with an I at sabiosystems.com. Thank you.
Thanks again. And without further ado, you're going to stop hearing from me in a little bit, and I love that. Could you introduce our next presenter as soon as the screen goes on? Not yet. Shh. So how many people, is this your first time here at one? I'm just kidding. Take a second to talk amongst yourselves. We'll get this presentation up shortly. I understand that we were out of coffee. We might have some more coffee that's been kind of trickling in. There's one canister left. There's one can right now. So, don't be shy. Knock over the person next to you. Is this? Oh, that's actually my charger, so that's not going to do anything. That'd probably do it. It looks like the screens went to sleep or something. Huh. I'm not seeing anything on the screen. So, I'm going to reboot. I think the screens are dead.
They were listening to me and they said, I don't need to hear this. I am going to sleep.
Is it searching?
Oh,
it was?
We've got part of the screen going up right
Okay.
now. As long as you've got artwork.
Yeah. We met now
Where's it kind of got a...
do you see them?
Now, do we need to mirror screens again? Yeah. Because it's showing your background.
Okay.
I knew how to do this 7 years ago. I'm glad you did.
I know, but I can't. My mouse button has gone away.
Let's see, can we not minimize that thing? Oh, your mouse button has gone away. It's not a touch screen.
It is a touch screen, but I disabled it because it drove me crazy. Okay.
Configure. No, it's already displayed.
Nope.
Man, who knew?
Steve is the...
Are you sure I'm glad Steve kind of rebooted all our machines and screwed them all up?
What happens when you're not here?
All right. Yes. My little announcement. Sure, yeah. Yes.
Just a quick announcement. My name is Kenneth Segurino. I'm a creator and producer of a TV show called Almost Americans. We'll be shooting the pilot next week. And in the back here, we have the star of our show, Mark Yaffe, comedian Mark Yaffe. Mark will be the first Native American in a lead role in a situation comedy. And he's performing in Santa Ana, and he's been on Showtime. We're shooting a special with him in Pittsburgh, CA, California next month. So it's a very unique project in that it's a first Native American in a lead role. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Dara Ambrose, and welcome to 1 Million Cups. And we are never letting Steve Cook go anywhere ever again. So I have the pleasure this morning of introducing Andy with the Breathing Institute in Lan, if you want to take control of the computer. So they're going to talk about the Chinese medicine that they offer in our city.
All right, hello there, Million Cups. I'm Nick Baker, and this is Andy Miles, and we are the Breathing Institute. I have the great pleasure of working with Andy. He is, I would say, at the leading forefront of Chinese medicine, definitely in the States. And in fact, we were introduced very recently in front of a medical conference to say the same thing. So he is one of the partners here at the Breathing Institute, and is kind of amazing. He's gone all overseas. He's had clinics in Eugene, Oregon. He has worked with top medical doctors in Taiwan, in China, and in America. And he is now part of our team. So,
It's Cho Shui-Lan who's running the slides. She's one of 3 people in the country who's capable of looking at herbal formulas that people are taking and knowing what kind of interactions they'll have with medications, how and when they'll be in the body, when they'll be getting out. What she allows us to do is to unlock the mechanism behind Chinese medicine. So what is yin, what is yang, what is qi, what is the Chinese concept of kidney qi? She basically allows us to take the last 3,000 years of development and unlock it and put us 300 years in the future. Nick Baker is an expert in medical Qigong. He's been invited to Taiwan to teach there. He's had a martial arts school in town for the last 5 years. He's been rated one of the top schools. He's also a gourmet chef. So really what we do is we help get people off their medications, if we were to simplify it. A lot of that has to do with diet. When you're dealing with diet, it tastes bad. He fixes that. Rob Bobo is also a martial art expert in Qigong. He got blown up completely. There's no reason that he should be standing here holding his baby with modern medicine as it is today. No, it's a babysitter mishap. But, yeah. But using Qigong and Chinese herbs, he was able to piece himself back together. Next. We also work with Michelle Koo, who is rated the top cardiologist in Albuquerque for the past 4 years. She brings, of course, the Western medical side of things and brings us an extensive network through her friends and colleagues. Publications, whatever. Written a couple of books. If you've read Newsweek or any kind of medical journals lately, a big part of what they consider the future of medicine has to do with microbiota and the human microbiome. Everything comes back to, well, we need to balance it, but we don't know how. We know how. In addition, a big part of the future of medicine has to do with gasotransmitters. Traditionally in Chinese, this is called qi. Qi does not mean energy. It means gas. If you look at the etymology of the word, it means gas. There are gases in the body that serve as neurotransmitters. They connect one nerve to the other by way of gas. They cross membranes. They help the body to maintain homeostasis. This is why we're able to heal in ways that are considered impossible. Next slide. This is the same kind of care that government officials and celebrities in China receive. I know because this is how I met them. Next. Because of these connections, we're able to get direct access to the highest quality herbs in China. Because we have friends in the pharmaceutical companies there, we can test for quality and safety at the highest level in the world. This is what a Chinese medicine clinic looks like in China. This is where the top doctors work. This is what we're bringing to Albuquerque. Not exactly that style. We're trying to keep it a little more southwestern, but this quality of care. Yeah. Where are you going? Okay. Yeah, next one. These are unfair advantages. We have specialists here, and we fly in specialists from China and Taiwan to make sure that our team is the highest trained on the planet. We have, of course, Lan with her PhD in pharmacology, Chinese medicine pharmacology. She's the only one in the country with her PhD. We have direct sourcing of herbs, and most of our referrals, most of our business comes by referrals from MDs. This is this is an outdoor space that we recently added, and this is where people do Qigong, breathing exercises to help reduce dependency on herbs and medications. We use herbs and acupuncture to get people off of their drugs. We use Qigong exercises and diet therapy to get people off of everything. This is our indoor space. This is part of our outdoor space. Next. We also host events so people can get a taste of healthy cooking. It's also a good chance to network and expand our circle of influence. If you can think of something you'd like to do, come have a party. This is the indoor area. It's pretty. We're also receiving patients from out of state. Thankfully, Albuquerque is beautiful. I know there are a number of you in here that are involved in tourism. Please talk to us. Yeah, I mentioned this. Go. We're also working on health app development. I'm sure there are some of you in here who can help us with that. When it comes to distribution of what we know, we're morons. So please think of ways to help us. Working on a fibromyalgia app, app for PTSD, and a cardiology app. So if you can think of your own project, your own team of people, you can consider that by working with us, you can get the highest quality care, you can upgrade your life, have more energy, be calmer as you go through life changes. And also, if you buy or sell anything into the Chinese market or from the Chinese market, we can help you. Next. This is my godfather. He used to control an area the size of France with about the same population. If you're buying or selling anything, we can help you. This man here is in the cabinet to the president of China. He's a good guy. This guy is chubby. But he also has some minds, so that's useful. So please think of ways we can build something together. We have evidence-based Qigong. We're looking at app development, online sales. This is a weak point for us. Supplements, if you know anybody in the supplement industry, we get calls all the time to do research and development for that. We can probably do much better than what's out there at much cheaper. We're also looking to import high-end Chinese tea. Beginning of October, I'll be going back, so if you want me to pick you up anything, just let me know. That's it. If you have any questions, go.
Yes, Jim.
I would think that one of your challenges, maybe the biggest challenge, is to convince people like me who was born in this country to supplement my medical care with what you offer or perhaps replace it. How do you attempt to recruit people like me to spend money with you?
This is one of my favorite and most asked questions. We are battling, in one avenue of our business is, of course, battling what I call the crystals and dream catchers method of acupuncture. What a lot of those people have is a really good mindset, but they lack the nuts and bolts. We have the nuts and bolts of Chinese medicine, why it works. If you go to China, Taiwan, you're going to see not only a Western medical wing in every hospital, but an Eastern medical wing, two chiefs of medicine. To give you an example, one of our earlier patients, actually, when we first started up, came to us for asthma. He was spending about $500 a month on Advair just to be dependent on breathing properly. And it took about 2 months he didn't even do a Qigong, he just did acupuncture and herbs. And took 2 months for him to not be dependent upon that on a daily basis at all. And it also happened to take away all of his inflammation and several other symptoms he was dealing with. As it is, we're dealing with Michelle Koo, and we have about several other doctors. We have about 6 Western medical doctors that are referring patients to us. One of them actually refers to Andy as his doctor, which I love. They do this because what we're doing is what we're focusing on is what they're focusing on also. If you go have a stroke or you have a heart attack, if you have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, they're going to test a few things in your body. One thing they're going to find right away is that you're low in hydrogen sulfide. Almost across the board this happens. It's something that's at the forefront of cardiology as an example. What we do, like with the Qigong exercises and the herbs, specifically helps the enzymes that are going to boost this within your body so that you not only recover faster from those ailments, but you can hopefully prevent those from happening at all. That's one example. I don't know. Would you have another?
Yeah, just briefly, we don't do anything without an evidence base. We can treat a number of diseases, but if they lack an evidence base, we don't focus on that. There's enough market without it. And like he was saying, we get referrals from MDs. So when you're dying and don't have much other choice, that's what happens. Yeah.
So how much have you done with fibromyalgia?
Sure. There are certainly a number of social factors that contribute to fibromyalgia within the United States. There's also gut dysbiosis, and it's associated with dysregulation of nitric oxide. We take care of all three. It's not enough to give somebody with fibromyalgia a pill. It's not enough to work with diet. It's not enough to work with gasotransmitters. You need to create a healthy community where people aren't just complaining about their illnesses. You need to create a space with a culture where people can enjoy tea, where they can be together. And this is why we believe it's not just enough to see the doctor. We're cultivating a community for people to enjoy health. So as a result, people come with fibromyalgia, and then they stop identifying themselves as their disease, because that's the curse, right? Then they identify themselves more with their friends, their family. And this is, I believe, the way out of a long-term chronic condition like fibromyalgia.
Miss, we'll come back over to you in just a moment. I think we can address Jim's question, and ma'am, what was your name? Eva. So we can address Jim's and Eva's question somewhat simultaneously and reinforce what Andy and Nick just said. On the one hand, we can convince the Western mind that grew up in I got to trust my doctor. My doctor gave me this label. Fibromyalgia is that label, right? We can do it through proof of science, right? Andy said, there's nothing that we don't do that is not science-based. Additionally, we have Anecdote going back pretty long way. In sales, do we have salesmen in here today? Okay. How often does an Anecdote sell your product? It does, okay? Some years ago, shortly after I got wounded, I was the XO, the executive officer of Alpha Company, Wounded Warrior Battalion West. And for a young Lance Corporal, they are never going to go into a captain's office and say, hey, sir, I'm having some trouble. I've got PTSD, and it is going off the charts for me. My TBI is killing me. I'm thinking about, we're losing 22 veterans a day to suicide. 22 a day. They're never going to go into a captain's office and say, hey, sir, I'm having a problem. So I built something I call the Healing Journey Project, which basically was nothing but anecdote, so it wasn't science-based. It was just, this is my road to recovery. This is how I'm doing it. These are the problems I'm facing. And I built it so that young shock troops would be able to see, here's an officer dealing with the same things I'm dealing with. So they got a personal interaction with me that they never, ever had. Oh, I'm sorry, sweet pea. They got a personal interaction with me where they didn't have to embarrass themselves to come into my office. Well, that program, the healingjourneyproject.com, is just a blog, but it took off. And it started being able to demonstrate to a lot of people through Anecdote. And again, does Anecdote sell? Yes, it does. Is it science-based? No, it's not. But you'd be able, if you go check that out, and I recommend this to virtually all of our customers, you get a chance to see a personal story that was not built over a day. It was a 2-year-long project. So you get a chance to see that. Now, in terms of that fibromyalgia, Eva, right? Yeah. In terms of that fibromyalgia, my mom suffers from fibromyalgia. And one day I was explaining to her the symptoms of nerve injury that I had as a result of the blast that wounded me. And she said, oh, it's like my fibromyalgia. And I said, no, shame on me, but I said, no, Mom, someone did this to me. And I had this huge misconception of what fibromyalgia is. We see fibromyalgia as being something that is made up or it's just in the brain. Chinese medicine doesn't see it that way. Chinese medicine sees it as, you called it incurable. Chinese medicine sees it as very curable. And I think Andy can probably address that.
A lot of mind-body diseases are very connected because of a unique structure called the neck. The brain and body, pretty connected. Descartes had this idea of dualism, that they were separate. Don't trust French philosophers for your medical care. Any other questions? Yeah.
Part of what we do here is provide connections, so I want to throw out a couple of names just in case they're
Yeah.
An old friend of mine is a cardiologist, used to be mainstream interventional cardiologist, and now is very focused on practice and prevention and wellness, named Harvey White. He has Vessel Health in town, and I would encourage you to connect with Harvey White and Vessel Health because there are a lot of synergies. And I'll mention to him that after your presentation. The other one is a gentleman I've been studying Tai Chi with for about 14 years, David Brown of Four Winds, and I think if you
just briefly, the athletic performance is based on war medicine in Chinese medicine. So you need to be fighting all day, slicing the heads off peasants. It gets tiring. So ginseng is the tip of the iceberg. Anything you can imagine with the human body in terms of increasing testosterone, hemoglobin, nitric oxide in the body, they were doing that 2,000 years ago and got pretty good at it. This is why the Chinese Olympic team is always getting tested for steroids and they can't find anything. I can do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You need to build some sort of trust. And a blog would be a really obvious way to post scientific information, anecdotal evidence that people can review for themselves and gain some insight into your theories and methods, and begin to trust that you would be a good resource for them.
Are you saying our Facebook site isn't cool enough? All right. Will do. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about maybe doing some lobbying in Congress to get more people to accept insurance? Because I think that's a really big part of what people don't know. I think most people will know that it's logical. I mean, these are the things that really happen, and like you said, you have a science base, but oftentimes, most of the time, insurance doesn't cover it, and they're reluctant to do that, and so they try to mimic some of the things that you do, like maybe going once or twice, and if they don't know how to follow up with that long term, then they kind of lose interest, and they won't
Okay.
come back.
Yeah, as far as lobbying, no. Other people who aren't busy can do that. I mean, I'm really a fan of what they're doing. There are people who are lobbying for it. We're just busy treating people.
And there's a kind of an ancillary point to that. I would hazard a guess that most of us in here are believers in the free market, and we recognize that there's going to be certain governmental instances that are going to stifle our productivity, and so we have to innovate. And we've come up with can we plug concierge medicine today? Do you want to? We've come up with manners to make this as affordable as possible, because we do recognize that insurance is not always going to pay for it. Sometimes yes, oftentimes no. So we have come up with pricing strategies to make it as affordable as possible for that very reason.
Yes.
I've got a question about your name.
Yeah.
It brings up asthma.
Right.
It doesn't bring up anything else you guys have been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at that, why would I come if I didn't have asthma?
The Breathing Institute at this stage refers to the Qigong training that we do.
How would I know?
You get a referral from your MD if you're lucky. Yeah.
So you say you have about several Western doctors that are referring people to you.
Yeah.
So do you refer people back to Western?
Of course, yeah. Not every. What's an example? You look at people's labs. There's a time that Chinese medicine works really well. There's a time that it doesn't. We know when to refer, and we do. Also, people need more information. The more technology that you have, the more labs that you have, the more accurate your diagnosis can be. So we start with a very accurate diagnosis. Once you have the perfect diagnosis, the right strategy, 10,000 methods are okay. In the back. Yes, to answer your question, it's both. We do the full spectrum, and we also have specialists who are trained because we fly in experts from China and Taiwan to train them. So, yeah, especially with stroke, with asthma, we have specialty clinics for these. And the name of the treatment part, to follow with what you're saying, will be changing to Ku Wellness with our partnership with Michelle Ku. So yes, it was a good name when we were only treating asthma, but you're absolutely right. It's horrible for general practice.
Great. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's 10 o'clock, and the last question we have for you is, what can this community do for Breathing Institute?
What you can do for us is think of ways that we can help you make more money, and then come have tea with us because we have good tea, and just chill out. And we're going to find a way, sooner or later, that we can all work together. We're cooperative and inclusive, and that's who we are at heart. So please come by, have some tea.